All right. It is 6:33. I call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up, do we have any agenda revision?
You know, it's not an agenda revision as much as a WASA presenter isn't going to be here.
Oh, okay.
So it was Mike Maryland, so I'll still do the presentation.
You're going to do it? Okay. All right. Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
I have a question on the field trips and the ASB funding. They're now listed as ASB dash fundraising, and I'm confused about the ASB funds and how they're used. Who's in charge? Is that so? I had in my mind somehow the students are in charge of those funds. Is that true?
Yes, yeah. So the students are, and this is specific to a couple of field trips that are happening.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the students working with Kyla Ritchie, who's the teacher, and Misty Young with the high school. The students are responsible for approving those fundraisers.
Can you walk me through how that? I mean, it looks like these are the field trips we've sent teams to.
Yes.
For decades.
Right. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So how are the students involved in?
Well, so I think is there one specifically that you're?
No, just all of the athletic field trips, the camps, the summer camps.
Yeah, so all of those, so the camps for athletics, for example, the coaches
right
work with the athletes, and in many cases that maybe even a booster group, but as far as they have their own account within ASB, so football.
And have so, a sub account somehow. Funds come into that from the games and
not necessarily from games,
concessions
but
or from
things
fundraising.
Possibly could be fundraising. So yeah, we have concessions. That we have a concessions booster group that's actually the Panther Foundation oversees our concessions. And so when a group works concessions, part of the proceeds go into their ASB account.
Right.
And so for football, for example, if the football parents did the concessions, then that money goes that they've earned for that evening, for that event, goes into that account, and then it's identified for a purpose. So they get approval from ASB on what are they raising funds for. So
right.
there's a plan, a template they complete when they have an interest in fundraising for some event or a field trip. So that goes to ASB, it's approved, and then how they raise those dollars are typically identified in their.
I guess I ask only, well, for two reasons. Some of the teams, the students are paying their way, and some ASB is kicking a pretty substantial amount.
Yeah.
And that seems like a disparity that it should be transparent, I guess.
Right. So, and again, I don't know, again, if we could identify an example where students are contributing some portion of it. We also have House Bill 1660 that for those that can't afford it, right, that I guess have
scholarships or something.
Yeah. So there's, that's in essence that portion is waived. Right, so we know who those individuals are.
Right.
Yeah, and then, but there is through the fundraising, typically there's work that's required by those individual students. So I don't know if you've seen car washes. There's a lot of car washing.
I've had my car washed several times.
Yeah. So that's another example of an event that raises funds for a specific purpose. Right. That's been approved through the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if. Lisa, if you have any context you want to add?
I guess I'm really only raising it because that's an area that's kind of flagged by the external auditors and talking to people around the country that I know that work in education. That's an area that's raised by
absolutely
everywhere. And I just asking how it works.
And the auditors the auditors said this year when they started with us that was an area that they were concerned about, and to my knowledge, I think that there were no concerns within ASB, but it is something that typically is something auditors are looking at. There's a lot of money that flows in and out through ASB. There's a lot of clubs, a lot of different events that happen. And so that's why we send our staff to ASB trainings So they go to frequently or going to trainings. I think they're right now scheduling for either this summer or for in the fall. So those are offered in our region. So the trainings are very important for Kyla and for Brian Wild and
Right.
our secretaries in particular.
No,
in the
critical,
middle schools
sure.
that are also, so our middle schools also have ASB.
Right, I saw that.
Posts, yeah.
Um,
So you want to add any context to the?
Oh, just that for the fundraising part, they all would do their own budget. And at that point, we asked them to identify all the fundraisers they plan to do. So they already have the fundraising packet filled out, they submitted with, this is how much we think we're gonna raise, this is what we plan to spend it on. And that all flows through into how we do their budget for the year, which they're coming up with. And every time they agree to something, there's a very thorough minutes of the students, plus the principal, plus the ASB guys are signing off and approving everything that flows through.
and are those monies, do they show up in any of the public budget information we get, or is that kind of a separate,
The ASB is in your packet.
including donations and everything as a source? Okay,
But we charge students the fee for field trip or ASB, but that money does get put into the ASB.
okay. And then it segues into another question I have, that something for next year, maybe. And we've asked about it in the past, but it would be really valuable to have a sport by sport, club by club assessment of how much things cost or how many students are taking advantage of those things. Looking at, we're hiring all the coaches for the fall.
Yep.
It's quite a list. I was surprised how many football coaches there are, but half what Camus hires, so I don't have any objections or anything. But I think we're looking at tightening budgets, as you know better than I do, Shalice, enrollment challenges, and having that information ahead of time before something comes up that we really need to cut something would be valuable. That's all I had.
Yeah, so sport by sport, club by club, and we'd include like the stipends for each club. So clubs have many of them have a stipend position, not all of them. So some of the clubs that we have, there is no stipend for that, for all of our coaches. We can definitely share that, plus the individual amount that's given to each program. So basketball, girls, boys basketball, like that amount. So Brian and Jake could share that information in the fall.
I would like to see it.
And then the numbers. So we would,
how many
we would go with like 24, 25 numbers.
Yeah, of course.
If we're gonna do something early, and then like they presented earlier this spring, maybe we have a similar presentation that might have, and if they do it right, after spring break, typically we'll know the spring sports for middle school members, and then we would have
kids are coming out. Yeah. I hope we don't face the challenge of having to really consider which sports we can afford.
Yeah.
But if we do, forewarned is forearmed, I guess. And if we're spending, I'll just make up numbers, $50,000 for a club that helps or serves 3 or 4 kids, that is different than spending $10,000 for a sport that has 30 or 40 kids. Right? I'm just curious if it's an equity issue.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Robotics, which is we compete with Camus and Hawkinson, is one where there's an amount that we contribute, and we don't have a lot of students that participate. So we are making a decision on that particular one. It's an opportunity that not a lot of our students participate in. It's a phenomenal experience.
And maybe knowing that could encourage kids to participate.
Yeah.
It's like, look at this opportunity you have, a club that we support.
Yeah.
And, making it known that there's openings.
Yeah. Some clubs like Club Unite is funded through
externally
the grant.
Yeah, right.
The DFC and Stop It grant. I think it's the Stop It grant or is it this Stop It grant funds that. And so that was one that we were earlier this spring concerned about because we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. And so if it continues, and that's something we want to do, which is the after school program for middle school students.
Right. Do we know that it's going to continue?
I think we're optimistic.
Good.
But like many things,
yes.
We were with the state superintendent was on today on Zoom. And so we're still on a wait and see.
Cautious. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's gonna happen.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. All right, any more questions?
I had one,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
So the meal price change, I just wanted to note that. So I guess my question is that looked like their OSBI had some involvement in that change?
Yeah, so OSBI and USDA released a tool called the PLE, it's a budget equity tool. And every year they come up with the new amount that you need to either have average with all your different meal prices, because you have different meal prices, elementary, middle, and high. The average needs to hit this certain dollar amount, and for next year it's $4.01. So you have to see what your count was in October of your current year, what you're currently charging, what that average is. And then you have to increase it to meet the new threshold. And they do have a cap, you can only increase it up to 10%. So, sorry, 10 cents. So if 10 cents didn't get you there, then you have to show that you have a shortfall and keep running your shortfall through until you finally can raise it more. So our 10 cents is gonna get us to the average of the $4.
Just seems weird to me that they said it versus how much it costs. Like, yeah.
So, and they only do that for lunch, for breakfast, it's up to the district.
Wow.
So you notice there was no change in the breakfast
Yeah.
prices, but
Yeah.
just the 10 cents per meal for lunch.
And do you have a guesstimate on how the changing management of the food service might impact those prices or the potential deficit?
I mean, hopefully if we end up going through the process and making the change, the cost analysis is that there should be a savings.
Right. Good.
And.
But as far as the prices go?
Meal prices.
Well, the savings, I'm just,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
And then the increase in meal prices, depending on the increase in food costs each year, hopefully they either offset or there is revenue.
right. Thank you.
Are we expecting to still have 3 schools under the SEP or have the requirements for that changed?
Next year we should have all 4 elementary schools.
Kate is gonna be on.
Okay,
We listed the elementary price, lunch price, raising 10 cents, as all the other ones are, but the 4 schools are gonna be free, so they won't actually be charged. Yeah.
and we're confident that funding is gonna be there from the government fairly?
From my understanding, through 25, 26, and 26, 27, that everything is still optional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, how about anybody else?
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
My second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have our student representative report and appreciation.
Yes, so
Wonderful.
before we say hello to our students for the last time.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that Shalice is here, and Shalice had a baby last week.
Congratulations.
You probably
Very dedicated.
thought that I was gonna be answering all the questions.
You're not supposed to be that, yes.
So.
We love her.
Okay, how's it going? Your last board meeting, this is graduation week. Clearly, you know. So, Saturday is graduation, you're all planning to be there? Yeah, excellent. So thank you for being here tonight. I know it's a super busy week. And I think maybe even previously, not all the students would attend this, the week of graduation. So this is pretty special. I didn't give that as an option. So we're so thankful you're here. We have some little items for you that we would like to give you. But we'll probably let's do that after you share some thoughts with us. So as I mentioned them before we started, I didn't have any questions for them until I did say that I had sent them, but I did say, could you please share with us what's a memorable experience you've had either this year or through your K-12 experience? Is there an individual teacher that maybe you want to recognize? And then what are your plans for next year? All right, could you please start us off?
So memorable.
Memorable, yeah,
experience.
something that this year possibly, or through high school, what's something that's
Yeah.
memorable for you?
I'm not sure.
Okay. How about we'll come back to you?
Okay.
Grace?
Sorry, I took a sip of water. I would say specifically with senior year, an outside of school trip that I went on for an ASL group, and then throughout the school year, just the drama club, because I officially resigned as president today. We held elections. Yeah,
And you had to resign.
because we have new elected officers.
Yeah. So what was the trip?
It was for music and motion
Yeah.
for the as well. So we went to Disneyland and did ASL show choir type stuff.
Yeah, great.
I'm gonna have to agree with Grace. I think my most memorable experience was being a part of Music in Motion. It wasn't a school affiliated club. However, the two main leaders of the group were Miss Grant and Kyla Ritchie. And it was like all my best friends were in that group, and it was a super cool experience getting to go and perform as a team, but also have fun in Disney. And that was my first time at Disney, so that was cool. And I got to go with my little sister, so that was fun too.
Nice.
But that one will definitely go down in the books. So
Okay. Amari, what are you doing next year?
Next year, I'm gonna go to PLU. So,
And you know what you want to study?
yeah, psychology.
Great. Excellent. You're gonna live in a dorm?
Yeah. First year.
Yeah, great. Grace.
I'm going to Brigham Young University in Provo, and I'm doing the prerequisites to do the acting BFA program, but if not, I'm gonna go into political science and pre-law. And yeah, I'm saying all the freshmen have to stay on campus in dorms.
Good.
I'm going to Westmont College, and I'm gonna study mathematics. And then I want to get a master's in teaching after that because I want to be a math teacher. And I will be staying on campus next year, so that will be exciting.
Where is that?
Santa Barbara, California. So I'll be in the sun. Maybe I'll learn how to surf. We'll see.
It's-
Be really cool to learn.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think the Olympics are gonna be there, like surfing.
LA,
We'll put it
yeah.
south.
Yes, comment about surfing in Santa Barbara. I went there to be a professor thinking, and I lived there as a kid. I thought, oh, I'll learn how to surf. The water is so cold.
Yeah, we'll see.
The-
Maybe I'll be used to it though. We
But-
live in the
I was gonna say, if
Pacific
you go to the Washougal River, you're kind
Yeah.
of used to it,
Used to
right?
it. But the locals that learn to surf as kids and surf their whole lives have to have, sorry about this, is reality, have to have their ears drilled out because their skull grows over the opening to keep the cold water out. So wear a wetsuit, I guess that's what I'm saying.
So use earplugs.
Really?
I will.
Yeah, wetsuits.
Yeah,
Anyway, congratulations, all three of you.
yeah, right. Yeah, you have a plan. Great plans.
Yes.
Amari, is there anything you want to share with the board?
For the question before.
If you want to share about, yeah, it could be the question before, anything you want to share with the board.
Okay. I guess for the question before, like from like junior to senior year, I was part of the Washougal Ambassadors, and that was like a really fun program. And it's like there's just so many students like involved in it, so it's really great. And then I don't know how to share with the board. Just like that, this has been a really good opportunity. It's been really fun to come here every month and just share stuff with you guys. So thanks.
I'm really proud of you for sticking with us. So 2 years in a row. And so the growth in just in your confidence from last year, this year has been really phenomenal. So we appreciate you sharing with us what you're experiencing. Was there a graduation for Release Starters? Has that happened yet?
Yeah, if you get your AA, then you can
okay.
graduate from Clark. Yeah, it's on a Wednesday.
And are you done with Clark right now?
No, my last class is on the 16th.
Grace, something you want to share with the board?
I guess I agree. This has been a really good experience, and it looks great on resumes and college applications as well. So that was helpful. But I guess thanks to Miss Scoba, I had a really good resume, and I have a job this summer that technically it's not like nepotism because my dad owns the dental office, but the business manager is who hired me and like read my application, and I'm doing all the steps to become one of the sterilization technicians. So I clean all the sharp stuff at the dental office and clean the rooms and stuff.
So when's that start?
The Monday after graduation, the 16th.
Yeah.
And then I work like 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day,
You mean busy?
except for the weekends.
And then when does school start?
For me, I leave mid-August because we're setting up my older brother at Utah State as well. So we're just doing a big whole family trip. But I start school on like September 3rd, I think.
Okay. All right, you know when you start?
I think they're around the same day.
Same, early September?
Yeah.
Anything you want to share with the board?
Yeah, so from the perspective of ASB, as you guys know, we went to like the Jostens Renaissance Conference this last summer, and we are also going again this year. And it is a newer program to Washougal, which introduces just a lot of new things. So I kind of just ask for the future, if future students come, kind of asking for you guys to take on new ideas, that you have an open mind and maybe accept new things, and are willing to accept change in areas, because there are some really good ideas and things that we've even implemented this year that have really already made the school better. And I'm just excited to see where Washougal High School is headed towards in the future. And I also want to just thank you guys for this opportunity, because it has been really fun to kind of be a part of something that I hadn't previously been a part of, and kind of experience a new perspective of like what's happened within Washougal. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Board, would you like to share anything with our student reps?
Matt, I'm curious whether there's anything you can help us do to make this a better program for student reps next year and for years to come. Anything we should have done differently or we could do better?
I personally don't have any complaints. I was only here a year, so I don't know if you kind of have something that might have compared, but everything for me was smooth sailing, and I never had anything that felt out of place for me personally.
Yeah, I think it's overall it's like really good. I think just the most important thing would be like if there's like more complicated questions to like get those out in advance, just like so that we have time to like prepare and stuff. And yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, Jim.
All right, so we have a few things for you. All right. Certificate, card. Of course, a journal. Expect to use. Yes. So we are really thankful again for your contributions. And I know it's a late night. And even when you were really busy, you would show up. So we appreciate that. I want you to share with the board. And I know that they very much appreciate what you shared. We are planning to have more reps in the future. We actually have a policy now in place that says that we are going to have student reps. So, thanks so much. Oh, yes. And then we have these little items here. If you're interested, we have two flavors. I think one is confetti, and then I think it's a new flavor. This is the small one. Oh, no, it's the chocolate chip one. So.
Same here, I hate to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Get a picture of them. I would love to get a picture of all of these. Yeah.
Goodness.
We get a picture
I
of the
would bust
board.
it.
Would you get a picture?
Yeah, you guys are on the board.
Yeah. Thank you, right there.
Stand.
Yeah, probably around. So if the two of you want to go around by Jake, if one of you want to come over on the side by the screen.
Your chair and check.
Yeah, you're all in. Okay, so look at this. So 3, 2, 1. 18 of them. Halfway decent shot.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys very much.
Yes, you stay. Yeah, actually, we're gonna go right into the next.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
So, so WASA has a number of awards at a regional and state. And so, I applied for an award for Riley, thank you, who was really doing some amazing work in a leadership role. So, this is a letter that she received, and I was able to give her, that says, congratulations, you have been nominated to receive the 2025 Washington Association of School Administrators Student Leadership Award for the Columbia River region. This nomination recognizes you for your exceptional leadership and dedication to student voice, school culture, and community development. From serving on the Washougal School Board to helping earn national recognition through the Johnston School Award, your thoughtful advocacy and commitment have left a lasting mark. Your leadership, both on and off the field, truly exemplifies the spirit of this honor. So what a cool honor for you, and just your leadership throughout. And Mr. Castle, Kyla, they were very complimentary of you throughout. So just tremendous leadership. We so appreciate all that you've done. And you know, when you think about a legacy, I think you've left a legacy. Yeah, so what you started, you know, it's going to continue. So we are excited about that. So you have a little certificate, and there will be a plaque eventually.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey. Thanks, Nico.
Thank you so much. You guys.
Bye. All right, we are moving on to our capital projects update. Aaron?
Yes, all right, thank you. So we have been providing you updates with our capital projects. We are so thrilled with the progress, and again, just thank you to our community for this support. So Les has more updates he's going to share with you. If you haven't been to the high school recently,
It's looking good.
yeah, what you would see is on the roof, the athletic side, south end, that we have individuals that are working on the roof right now. So it's happening. And there's a lot of materials that are staged just to the west by the bus lane. And so a lot of activity. So Les has done a great job managing this along with Jessica. So Les, provide the update.
Great. So just like we did last time, we're going to go through the projects kind of one at a time. The first of the projects is the boilers and the HVAC replacement. The boilers are on order. Those were ordered a while ago after the board approved them. They'll arrive in kind of like early to mid-July for installation. The contractors are working on the plan currently. At the high school, they are very ready to start tearing stuff apart. They're waiting until the last day of school so that they can start that and then do that in a way that isn't disruptive to students. The security and security systems and the EDA door operator project. GB Manchester is the vendor that we've been working with. They've been working swing shifts over the last couple of weeks, and they've done almost all of the wiring that's required for this project. So they're running cabling into almost every classroom and into all of the exterior doors at Gauze, Cape, Canyon, and the high school. So they've been very, very active. They anticipate finishing the wiring part of the project by the end of the month. So they've made really good progress with those swing shifts. And then they expect that the new security systems will be up and running in early August. And then they'll finalize all of the stuff before we kind of start back in September. Project 5 is the high school roof. This is the one that's the most visible to people out in the community. So anybody coming up to the high school on either 39th Street or J Street on the south end of the building can see that we've ripped all of the shingles off of the top of the weight room, as well as the small gym and then part of the athletic entrance. We worked with the administration team at the high school to prioritize areas of the building that we could start work on a little bit early, to kind of maximize the amount of time for the construction project and trying to squeeze it all into this summer. It is still, they're up on the roof. It's still noisy. Even though they're not on the roof of the gym, you can hear the noise inside the gym, but we picked those areas that we think it's least impactful for. When school ends next week, they will start really ramping up the work across the rest of the building. If you go up there right now, you'll see that they finished putting, for those two big areas, they finished putting down the underlayment. And they have the shingles set out to start doing them. So this project is well underway and very, very visibly making progress. The Gauze and Hathaway one, because those are the flooring updates to the hallways. Obviously something that we can't tear up while people are still walking on them. And that's happening through the next couple of weeks. We're working with the contractor. They have the materials staged, so it's already in a warehouse waiting for the installation. So they're well poised to start as soon as we give them the go ahead. They're coordinating with our cleaning teams that'll be working in schools so that they're doing this in a way that isn't excuse me, disruptive to the rest of the work happening at both of these sites, as well as coordinating with the other contractors who are going to be on site, either working on the security systems or other projects. So when we came to the board in May and talked through the high school roof projects, one of the decisions that we had to recommend was we didn't go with a metal roof, which created a savings, even though the metal roof would have been far more expensive. It was outside of the set of funds the district had available to be able to do that. We appreciate the conversation that happened, in the coverage by that post record, helping explain that, it just wasn't going to be feasible for us to go down that road. It did free up some resources, which has provided a little breathing room within the project budget. So we'd originally budgeted, I think, around $3.6 million for the high school roof project. We anticipate spending quite a bit significantly less than that. Some of the other projects, and we talked about this as you were approving those along the way, they are more than what we had budgeted. All told, we anticipate having kind of close to $1 million in the levy funds that we can kind of allocate back to the other projects. One of the more expensive of those is to do the DDC work, which is the control system that runs the heating and air conditioning at Gauze and Hathaway. It's the same system that we're replacing at the high school and Keythorn Sky. It has the same set of issues. It just didn't fit into the budget originally. And with that breathing room, we'd really like to get that taken care of. When it's not working, people notice. It means that we can't schedule the air conditioning or the heating to work for events. We get all kinds of complaints from staff and families about the comfort level in classrooms, and it's really important. Doing that would use up about 2/3 of that capacity, so it's about $330,000 roughly for each of those two schools. It will require board approval, but we don't have something for you to approve tonight. And so I'll work with Aaron on what the timing for that looks like. It might be a project that we can do in the fall, but we have to be mindful of getting it back up and running before heating season starts. And so we'll kind of talk that through with our construction management team and come back with a proposal for you. The other project would be to work some more on our security systems. There are some new state laws. So this last legislative session, or actually in the previous legislative session, the Washington State Legislature passed Alyssa's law, which asks school districts around the state to be working more on modernizing the systems that are used for lockdowns and for enhancing notification to first responders. We're well poised at most of our schools for that, but there are a few things that we can do at Jumpyard and CRG that kind of finish that set of work for us. They would include things like adding strobes into some of the really noisy spaces so that there's a visual indication in the event that people can't hear the PA, like when a train is going by. So that would be part of it. It would also replace the card readers that are on all the exterior exits. So they have one set of card readers that'll work district-wide. The other piece of the security work is to add back in this campus's buildings, so the district office maintenance and transportation buildings. We had pulled those out early in the kind of the roughing in of the budget because we weren't confident that we would be able to afford it. And the security projects did come in over budget, but it'll still fit to stick those back in with that capacity from the roof project. So, any questions about that?
It seems like there should be some cost savings if we can bundle the controls from the different buildings, same contractor at the same time. Is that true? And if so, is there a way we can expedite it?
So
Is it
we
this summer?
still, we're working with district legal counsel to better understand the procurement method because it is a piece of software that's limited to a sole source of supply, right? So there's only one, so like we want the same exact system in all of our
Right.
sites. We're very happy with it. We've been working with it for a long time. And so we can do a sole source agreement for the software part of it, but the installation, at least our understanding of the way that the public works rules apply, we have to do a competitive bidding process. And that, follows the state law. So we're working with legal counsel to make sure that that interpretation of that is correct. If that's correct, we'll run an RFP process. There'll be, we anticipate there's only one vendor that is the one that can install that software. And so we would run the process, come back. That's what happened with the project that the board approved with Washougal High School. But we would need to have you all approve it because of the dollar amount. So it's above it. There's a $300,000 threshold for public works projects where it definitely requires the board's approval. Our local limit is 75,000 anyway. So it triggers both of those where the board needs to take action. And we don't think you can do it through a resolution like you did with the purchase of the boilers. So it's definitely something that we need to bring back to you. I anticipate that could be in August. We will also be working with, or I'll be working closely with Superintendent Hanson to talk about kind of options. If we find a way to do it, that we can expedite the process and then start the work earlier, it probably would require a special board meeting to get you all, to fill you in so that you have a good understanding of what you're approving and then to get approval.
I mean, it seems to me that the ultimate cost savings in energy, the sooner we do it, the more we save.
Yeah, conceivably, these can result in energy costs. I think with the high school project, there wasn't a huge savings. It was like 3 or 4%, which is, it's still a big number. It's just not, like it's not
15 or
gigantic.
20%.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Or the cost for all the other projects preset, like is there a risk that it could?
So we still have a contingency built into each of the other project budgets, and we did work with RNC, so Adam and Dan, who are supporting the construction management, are really comfortable with that. We are finding as we're ripping off the shingles at the high school, for example, there is some dry rot underneath the shingles, particularly in places where the roof leaked a long time ago. It got patched, and there's been some moisture that's gotten in underneath it. I think there's a couple hundred square feet of that, and there's a per square foot price that was built into the bid document that you all approved, and I didn't look it up. I was meaning to do that all day, but that turns into a multiplier that is part of that contingency. But Adam and Dan looked at the program budgets as well as the size of the contingency that's built in, and they're pretty comfortable with us moving forward. We will also have a much better sense of that as a scope of work, because that's probably the single biggest potential. Once we rip all the roofing off, we'll have a really good sense of what the impact is there. And I anticipate that would be before we come back with, let's do this set of stuff.
Any other questions? So one of the things that we want to do is publish on our website this information with amounts, like dollar amounts. And so we're closing in on kind of your question, like when can we publish with specific amounts or approximated amount? So we're getting closer to that. We want that to be on our website. We did send something out to the community last week that had some information, but we've been waiting on just kind of these final.
Yeah, we want to get we don't want to publish another set of numbers that is different than the numbers in the levy.
Right.
And then have people be confused if they change again. So
that makes sense.
and I anticipate that over the next week, we will finalize that plan, and with kind of the board's approval that These fit really nicely, and they were part of our scope of work originally. We just pulled them out, so now we're putting them back in. And so with that direction, I think we can publish that kind of table of the things. People who have the information from 2 years ago, and it is still on our website somewhere, will note that things like the DDC controls project is way more than what we thought it would be at the time. And the security projects have gone up a lot in costs, but the roof will be less. And that savings in the roof is what's going to pay for the increase in the others.
Right?
Thank you, Les.
Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
Yes, really appreciate it. Okay. Next,
Can you grab the mic? Maybe you.
we've got our discussion for the timeline and interview process for the District 5.
So we have the
Just
budget.
leaving.
With the budget.
Preliminary budget.
Budget
Whoops,
presentation.
just kidding.
Yes, so Shalice is here to present the preliminary budget for 25-26. So she's gonna get that
On the Zoom. Share.
on the screen, and you have a copy of it?
Yep.
It's the color copy. You bring that one? Okay.
Yep.
And Shalice did request to be here in person, okay?
I did. I got asked several times if I was okay.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you.
It's great to have her back in the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she will, when she's completed with this presentation, she's.
Yes.
Okay, so just to start out, so this is the preliminary budget for 2025-26. The budget tool that OSPI releases is called the F195. They didn't release it until last Friday, so the 6th. And so this has not been put into the system. What happens once it gets put in is the ESD is notified, and then they review, come back with questions where there might be changes. So I just want to note that it hasn't been ESD reviewed yet. So there could be changes, and if there are, then in August, I'll note anything that they came back that we changed. But on our side, we don't have any changes. So here it goes. Okay, so this is just our fund summary. So the school district has 5 different funds. So the general fund is the one we spend all of our time on and focus on. Then we have the ASB, which is run by the students. Debt service, which is where our bond payments go in and out of. Capital projects is less just communicated about, and then transportation vehicle, which is where all of our yellow bus purchases go through. So this is just an overview of the budget for next year of each fund. And then we'll go into more detail on each one. Does anybody have any questions on just the overview? No, okay. Okay, so the next slide is our enrollment. So we're required by the state a few years ago, what's called an F195F is a 4-year forecast. So we put in our budget for this year, and then throughout the presentation, you'll see kind of a 4-year forecast for each fund. So focusing on 25-26, we're budgeting including WLA, which is including our online schooling, art and remote learning, 2,438 FTE. And so the revenue that state provides us is based off of the green number. So the 2,438 is how we're funded. So everything below it is funded in different ways by the state, but it's not within our general apportionment. So they fund it separately. Like we get a bucket for Running Start that's thought to, as we get our Running Start invoices, the money that we're getting from the state, hopefully, we're pretty much pass through for the Running Start. And same with Open Doors. So we have estimating 100 Running Start students, and then Open Doors, the budget is 5, and those are funds that we do receive, and then we pay the invoices with the funds we receive. So we're really a flow through for both of those items. So the focus is on the 2,438.
So one thing to consider is, so TK, you see 60.
Yeah.
And currently we have more sections.
We have 80.
So it's closer to 80. And the state has planned for us to have 80. Right now we have, Connor's still meeting with TK students, families signing up, so it's possible we'll have a fourth TK, and that TK
Wow.
would be at CRG. So we're working on that right now, and so as soon as we'll let you know when that happens.
Just for clarification, the money we get is not this number, it's the real number in the fall, right?
So on our budget, September through December, we get money based on what we say we have. So every month we're reporting our enrollment, but the state is not giving us money based
Okay.
on our actuals, only on our budget. And then in January, they true up everything
Okay,
and we start getting money. So in January, we could lose money if our enrollment, if this projection was too high, or the way you want it to be is in January, you're seeing an increase in your apportionment because your enrollment is higher than you projected, which is the route you want to go.
yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so first fund is the student body fund. So this fund, as we talked about a little bit earlier, every single school is given a deadline by Kim and I, and they go through and all of the clubs meet, all of the sports meet, and they come up with what fundraisers they think they're going to do, what field trips they plan to do. They fill out all the paperwork and get it approved. And that determines their budget. So they fill out summary forms of this fundraiser, we think we're going to get this much revenue, this much expense, this is our, total net. And then Kim goes through it, asks any clarifying questions, and from that, it all goes to me, and that becomes their budget. So the business office doesn't really, we put it together, but the ASBs each individually did their own budget themselves with help from the ASB advisors.
And just kind of jump back to your question,
Yeah.
here's a picture with 3 different groups.
Right,
So Kelly Gregerson working with his drama club, and so the musical is an ASB
mhm,
event.
mhm.
He has class shows, they're not ASB. So there are funds that he can utilize that come from the district. We
General
allocate
budget, yeah.
funds for those classes. But the musical is not one, that's more of a club show. And then volleyball and cross country, so they each have their own.
Mhm.
And I think there's, each one of them, I think, have a plan for a trip, a camp this summer.
And it's not by grade though, right? Like it's all
It's by school.
Yeah.
by sport,
And
right?
by sport, the
And by
sub
sport.
account.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But it's not like the freshman has their own
They
account.
do, freshmen do have.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
also by that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like, yeah, there's.
that's where I was
each-
confused.
So like the seniors, maybe there's a senior gift.
Right,
They're gonna be providing, they've been fundraising for that.
yeah,
9th grade, they're fundraising, and that's why they host dances.
sure.
So
Okay,
that's
that
a
makes sense.
fundraiser.
And the ASB can create new accounts. So as new clubs start, or
Right.
maybe a club stops, then they'll do meeting minutes and they'll add a new account or close an account, depending on what's going on.
How often does that happen?
The closing of the account, we did a couple, just clean up
Yeah,
clubs that haven't happened in a while. So they closed them out and moved the money elsewhere. But we haven't done any ads this year, so I think it's pretty rare.
curious.
I think we did add one in the last year. That was I think Bible Club was added. There might have been a few others, but that one I specifically.
Okay, so any questions about the ASB? Okay, so the next one is our debt service fund. So the debt service fund is where our bond dollars come in and out of. So we use this fund to have the balance to be able to pay our principal and our interest payments throughout the year. So that is really why the funds are sitting there. And you can see in the expenditures that we are estimating to have another bond refunding, just like we did this year with the 2015 bonds. We have the 2016 bonds. And so they will look at that time to see if it would be a positive thing for us to refund. And so we are budgeting that we're going to refund, but we won't know that until our bond counsel lets us know if it's favorable to refund.
Any questions about that?
Transfers.
That was mine. What are the transfer out fees? What's that?
Yeah, so last year, the accounting manual that the districts go by approved an additional type of transfer. So normally you can transfer federal forest dollars that you receive. They go in debt service throughout the year and you can transfer them, but you can only transfer them to capital projects. And last year they agreed that any interest earning, so the money that's sitting there is sitting in investments. So any interest you receive, you can also now transfer out, but only to capital projects. And so that 424, that's the interest that's been earned in that account, and we can transfer it, but only to capital projects. I want to make that very clear. So only, yeah. So in capital projects, you'll see a transfer in.
Thank you.
Seems like that should be on the inside as well.
Yeah. So when we get to capital projects, you'll see a transfer in.
No, but I mean, in this budget, money leaving, but there's no
Oh,
interest in.
it's past money. So
Past,
the
last
county
year.
manual
Got it.
just decided we can do this. So it's not interest that we're going to earn in 25, 26. It's interest we've earned in past years that we're going to transfer out.
Is this many years worth of interest?
It's about 4.
Okay, so it's.
Yeah.
With some
Yeah. That's
framework.
pretty good.
Okay.
So 2 things. Is she impressive or what?
Yes.
Great response. And then the bond refunding. I'm not sure if any of you are like your heart rate went up at all.
A little bit.
We've done it.
Yeah, no, I
We
know.
did it.
Yes,
It was fine.
Yeah.
actually saw it.
It's just, that's a big,
It was
know.
a big savings.
yeah.
Yeah. So you can expect that we'll have more conversation. about that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Any more debt service questions? Okay. Okay, so the next one is the transportation vehicle fund. And so in the transportation vehicle fund is where we buy all of our yellow buses currently. There is legislation out that they haven't fully deciphered how it's going to be, but we might be able to start purchasing vans out of the transportation vehicle fund, but I've been told to just wait until September 2026 because they're not sure about how it's gonna look.
So next year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, not this
Yeah.
September. the
We
next
did
one.
ask about it and the reply was, please wait. Like, oh,
Which would
okay.
be so beneficial for us. I feel like if we
Yeah.
could do that.
Supervisor Sal seems very interested. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so the transportation vehicle fund, David is very involved in, and so all of our buses go on a depreciation schedule that OSPI keeps. We get depreciation money every July for all of our buses. And why you want to keep all of your buses on that depreciation schedule is once they fall off, you lose the revenue, and you're using that revenue to repurchase new buses. So you want a constant rotation of new buses so that you're getting the revenue in to continue to update your fleet. So the depreciation listed there for revenue is just an estimate of what we're going to receive at the end of 25, 26 for our depreciation revenue. And then the purchases, which we already have put in a PO for, but buses take pretty much about a year to come in. So we put in the purchase order maybe now 4 months ago, and we're expected to get them around April. So anytime between February and April. This year we got our last bus came in April. But it's 835,000. It's 3 large buses. So the D84s, so they fit 84 students. Yep.
Can I,
Yeah.
not a question about this, but a request for future, it kind of falls in line with all of our capital stuff. It'd be useful for me at least to see a kind of snapshot inventory. Here are the buses we have, how old they are, where they're on the
Yeah.
replacement schedule, just where are we at.
Yeah, and we have that.
I'm sure you
David has
do.
to review
Great.
it every year for
Yeah.
us.
But I think I'd like to see it,
Okay.
just for information only, yeah. I'd like to be able to brag that our fleet is in great shape.
There you go.
Okay, so this next slide also goes with the transportation vehicle fund. This is a 7-year picture. So for the state requirements, we submit our 4-year forecast. This is 7 years. This helps David go through and him decide. The bottom is kind of his estimated plan of the buses he would purchase each year. So 3 large buses in 25, 26, 2 smaller buses in 26, 27, and so on. And then depending on the legislature, this plan may change with adding in vans or adding in the micro buses. But so far, this is the current idea he has. Yeah, and then the estimated expenditures, according to the buses with the depreciation.
This is kind of related, but, you know, bringing us into knowledge at least about how the routes are defined. Why is my neighbor's kid go there and my kid goes here? Just some background on how those decisions are made. Especially as we look at the big capital projects picture. Just knowing how that works would be valuable.
I've been looking into that after you and I talked about that.
Okay,
So I can,
Okay.
I can help with that a little
Okay.
bit, just on that side of it.
Okay, so now we have the capital projects fund. So as we've talked about in previous board meetings, we have our capital projects facility plan, which is currently being updated or has pretty much been updated. And we account for that money in the budget every year, whether we're going to actually spend it, like buying the land, it's accounted for in the budget in case we were to spend it. It's better to estimate that you're gonna spend the money and get budget authority to do it than not and have to come back to the board and get that budget authority, which then has to get reapproved by OSPI. It goes through the whole process. So that's why you see a huge capital projects expenditures coming out. Not that we believe we're going to spend 100% of that money, but it's giving us the authority to spend it if we needed to.
And what's the transfer out on that one?
The transfer out is our tech levy.
Gotcha.
So that happens every year. So it's the capital projects and tech levy, but the tech expenditures come out of the general fund. Every month we transfer it out. So what that is doing is that's the authority to transfer that much money. Not saying we will transfer that much of the levy, but we can't transfer over it without coming back to you and asking.
Thank you.
when we put that levy in front of the voters, is it, I don't remember age setting in, is it specified how much is for tech, how much is for capital? We do specify that.
In the communication plan that we do, we have a dollar amount, just like we did with the individual capital projects,
Right.
like the construction projects. There was a line item, and they're in that same group together.
Okay.
So there was a line item for technology. It's about 950,000
Right.
per year.
Thank you.
Okay, any more capital projects? Okay, so the bigger fund that most people pay more attention to is the general fund. And so this is the summary for the 25-26 school year. So this budget includes a reduction of around 1.4 million, as well as a reduction in student enrollment, which plays a huge part in the revenue of around 4%. So as our student enrollment goes down, our state apportionment, which makes up the largest piece of our revenue, also goes down, which is where the reduction in expenditures comes in. So this budget also anticipates the district being able to keep a 7% fund balance while striving towards 8%. And it does include a $50,000 transfer out of the general fund to the capital projects fund for turf replacement, which happens every year. We did not put it in the budget last year, and then I believe it was last board meeting, you approved a resolution for us to do that transfer. It normally is in this main budget resolution to just do the transfer every year.
And is that kept as a separate pot for the turf?
It is.
And how much is in that pot? I know.
Oh, man. I want to say there's around 500.
10 years worth.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's, do you have any idea how much that project is?
Probably closer to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we think it's a lot larger than what's in.
Okay. 10 more years.
Yeah, that's not, yeah,
Yeah.
Or an alternative plan.
yes.
Yeah, a partial coding, yeah. Okay, so just the overview of the general fund summary, are there any questions?
A question about the 7%.
Yeah.
We say 6%, we have had 8%, now it's 7%. How do we decide that it's going to be 7 instead of something else in the budgeting process?
Oh, so with the state, we run what's called an F203. And that's what gives us our estimated state apportionment revenue. So when we get our enrollment, we fill out a ton of forms. And it comes back with, this is how you're gonna get your revenue. And then we had an estimated cut amount. Remember, it was between 1.3 and 1.5. We ended up around 1.4. And so that factors into what your ending fund balance is going to be. As we do the budget, we went to every supervisor and they kind of gave their budget amount, what they think they're gonna need to spend. And so coming up with that and where we think we're gonna end just ended us being at the 7. The problem with the 7% is the board resolution wording is that the percentage is based on of the total expenditures of the year before. So the percentage changes every year because if one year your 7% is based on 40,000 and the next year your 7% is based on 45,000, that 7% is a different amount. So that's really just how the math works out when you follow the board policy based on the expenditures.
Then we have, so this is what we're budgeting, then we have student enrollment that that dictates. So this year, we had a few more students than we had projected, and then we held our students. I think we've stayed pretty steady. So if we, if a similar thing happens next year, and we have more students, we'll have more portion. And if we, fewer, then that impacts that percentage. You know that part. But as far as like as she described how we're budgeting, and we settled on 1.4 million as far as reductions, and the year is not over, and so staffing moves happen in later June, sometimes July and August. We have 2 positions that are opening and we haven't filled, and so depending on who fills those, that amount, it depends on their level of seniority, and so there's a variety of things that would impact what next year's going to look like, what that ending fund balance is going to be. But and maybe that doesn't answer your question, like how we settled on like 7% versus.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out 7% of what on these figures, and could not, because what you're telling me is that 7% is based on last year's figures.
Because that's how the resolution is worded. Yeah.
Is that resolution worth revisiting?
Yeah, it's a
Next
little
year.
bit different than what I'm used to. I'm used to it being this year,
Right.
but it says of the previous years.
And yeah, that's something we could
Yeah.
definitely
That makes better sense.
start having conversations about that.
Yeah, because I know that you have conversations about ending fund balance when you get into
Yes.
bargaining.
We do.
And
Yeah, and if you looked at this, and took
understanding that, I think
7%
is
of the
critically
total,
important.
it doesn't match. Yeah.
Yeah, it came up in the call with our state superintendent regarding districts that are in fighting conditions or heading in that direction. So absolutely, that's something that we could discuss.
And what assumptions are built into this expenditure model with regard to our labor partner negotiations?
Right. So yeah, so we did when we do our budgeting, and we know that we're bargaining with 3 groups or 4 groups. Right. Yeah. So we do as we do our enrollment conservatively. We also consider like how could we end up. So because we currently don't know.
I know.
Yeah. So we use different methods.
Okay.
We
But
did
because we
build
do with our
different plans.
Yeah, we knew with our, so we have a variety of plans. And then as we approach the end of the school year, now we knew with our certs that we had an agreement. So that was pretty easy. But, in February, when we didn't know and we were building our plan, we had a variety of plans. And so there's been a commitment that Shalisa's asked for regarding, because this is the budget. So we've landed, this is where we think we're going to be.
Right.
That's a really good question on what if it doesn't go the way we thought it was going to go. And that can go either way. Then that, we're gonna have to adjust. And then in July or in August, then we'll have those conversations that we need to adjust our plan.
Yeah.
So I would say that the budget is built off a conservative plan, that revenue might come in low, that expenditures may come in higher, because you want it to be conservative and not that you just overshot it.
Yeah.
It'd be better if we spent less than what was in the budget, if we received more money than what's in the revenue. But what Aaron was saying is at some point, you have to decide this is the budget and we're done with it, which I did. I need to pick a day and then we're done.
No,
And then they changed, and then it changed, and then we
Yes,
agreed.
it was like, that's great, but it's not going to the budget.
So it's best guess at a particular.
Yeah, and there's so many little things that change that.
Oh, I
So,
realize that, yeah,
how many custodial hours we're gonna have?
right.
How many pairs are we gonna need? And when Connor's supporting a special ed program, and we have additional students come in that require more support, then, that's something that in many cases we're required to do.
Right.
Yeah, one or two students.
Yeah.
In that category could be.
And then when your fund balance is really lean, then you've got to think about, so what are we gonna give up in order to add? If there is an apportionment for those individual students, or if there's no grants or anything available, then we gotta figure out what we're gonna reduce, so.
And again, that's why we should have that as this year, not last year, right? Wouldn't that make
Yeah.
sense?
Okay, so the next slide is just looking at it in a different format. So this is the general fund, just our revenue. So the revenue in the budget is 51.8 million. And this is how it's broken up. So you can see the state, which is our state apportionment, is 75% of our revenue. Local, which also includes the levy, but includes local grants, local donations. The tech levy is transferred, that's local dollars, 21%. And then our little pie of 4% is our federal money. Any questions on this one? So the next slide, same thing, but with expenditures. So we're budgeting 51.6 in expenditures, and this shows our breakout by our large buckets. So we have 82% is salaries and benefits. That's normal to see. That really is always your biggest bucket. And then we have 6% supplies and materials, 12% purchase services, and then really small, it's the 0.15 is travel and the 0.07 is capital outlay. So it's hard to kind of identify that in the graph, but it's very small. So any questions on this one? Okay, so the state requires us to show a 4-year budget forecast. This first one is the general fund summary going out to 28-29. There is a caveat on it that's noted on the bottom that the 4-year forecast is based on known information at the time, where there's legislative sessions every year that have impact. We know there's federal things that may change that have impact. And this is also anticipating that enrollment is going to continue to slowly go down. And so this is projected that they're going to continue to be budget reductions, including staffing positions. So the forecast part is not my favorite because it's really just shooting like an arrow in the dark. But that's what would be submitted to OSPI if the budget was approved.
Sorry, I didn't ask this a minute ago, but the expenditures part,
Yes.
back to the coach stipends and stipends, is that paid out of these monies? As opposed to the ASB fund?
Yeah, we pay our coaches out of the general fund.
And club leaders and everything? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on the general fund 4 years? Okay, so the next one is just looks like a lot of information. This is the other 4 funds. So 25-26 is what we just went over, and then it forecasting out. They all pretty much have a forecast, but the ASB, we just keep the exact same for all 4 years because the ASB students are going to do what they want to do. And so there's really no me playing with it. Where debt service fund is based off our debt service payment schedule. Capital projects is mostly an estimate. Transportation vehicle is based off of our depreciation and our plan of spending the buses that we saw in the 7-year projection. I need some. No, it's just like a lot. Okay. Okay, so then we have our 25-26 investment highlights. I'm just gonna let you scan. You probably don't want me reading through them, but I did add some of the capital projects items on there. Yeah. Any questions?
Some great investment.
Yeah, this isn't all of them, right? These are
Yeah.
just-
No, of course not.
They're similar to last year that was identified. And so there might be more investments we identify as a result of, a grant that we find that we can add support.
I'll throw my comment in on that. And really believe on the concept of building on strengths. So arts is an example of that.
Yeah.
Much as I love the arts and I'm committed to the arts, the changes happening at the federal and international level with regard to scientists, and coming from a research university where half the grad students were international students because there were not domestic students that were qualified. I see there and that is an opportunity for every school district in the country to help fill that pipeline with potential scientists and engineers so that we grow our own scientists and our own engineers, and we are not as dependent as we currently are for foreign students as medical doctors, as engineers of all types, as scientists of all types. And I would like to see, the recognition that Mr. Bauer, I think, is getting, recognition that Mr. Rice has gotten. I see science as a strength that our district has, and I would like to see us build on that strength.
Thank you.
So, any questions?
Thank you.
I have one. If there's litigation against the district and insurance doesn't cover it, what fund does that come out of?
General fund.
Good question.
Yeah.
Great question.
And do we have a contingency at all?
There is a contingency within the budget. Yep.
Thank you.
And then just as a reminder to everyone, so the budget is going to be submitted to OSPI, ESD will review it. July 10th, it's posted on the website, that's the deadline for that. We'll wait until the ESD is reviewed to see if there's any changes. When we meet back in August, the budget is on the agenda for approval. That is the drop dead date. It has to be approved before the end of August to go to the state. So if you look through it and you have any questions or wonders, please ask before August so we can get anything changed that we might need to, because by the time we meet there, it's approval time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in today.
Yes. Appreciate this. More welcome to stay.
Now go
I'm
ahead.
like, I will not. All right.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to discuss the
Yes.
timeline and interview process.
Yeah, so you have a vacancy document and we have a vacancy, District 5. So we're going to need to fill that vacancy. As much as we are saddened by Mr. Carpenter's decision, we need to fill that position. And so this is the timeline.
Yeah.
So similar to last year about this time. This is a little bit different of a timeline because we want to have a little bit more room. We're right there at the 90 days. And so we want to be not so close to that limit. And so if you look at this, I want you probably had a chance to look at it. So tonight we're discussing it. And then we have a plan to advertise on our website, the post record, that we have a press release, Facebook and Parent Square communication. So see what the interest is.
Yep.
And then that'll be open till July 24th, where it will close. And then August 12th. So we have a special meeting. So August 12th is our first board meeting. On that Tuesday, the 12th. Then we have a special meeting before, which we would interview candidates. Then have a discussion, an executive session, then have a decision. And then the August 26th, the new board director would be sworn in. So how's it look?
I wish we could expedite it, but
Yeah.
I don't see how.
Yeah, I think only in, the posting, that amount of time, if we adjusted that amount of time, but then we're in July sometime, and so unless we wanted to have a special meeting in July, which,
Particularly.
yeah,
I mean, there's only one individual who filed as a candidate,
that's correct.
and
And if that individual is a sole applicant, is there a way to not take such a long time on the process?
Yeah, so I can certainly look into that. I think that then, we mitigate risk by following a similar process that we did
Yeah.
last year. I also understand the desire to get someone in position. So
We don't have anything in between there.
we don't have any in between there,
Right,
and
time's up.
yeah,
Yeah.
and anyone who expresses interest can
Mhm.
certainly reach out to me, and I can point them in the direction of WASDA has a lot of resources. There's training coming up, so.
Yeah. I'm thinking that the sooner that person is able to start coming to meetings and become acquainted with the district, the better. It's one of the reasons that I resigned so soon.
Right.
And if we have timelines, I don't know whether they are statutory or board policy. If they're statutory, we have no options. The board policy, the board can always take actions to not follow board policy.
But even if we
So
speed it up, are they missing any meetings? Because
Yeah.
we don't have any meetings during that timeline.
I'm thinking primarily of in August. You have a board retreat scheduled.
It is, the plan was going to be the afternoon of the 12th. So you're right, and so and that can be adjusted, so maybe we move that.
Yeah.
That retreat to a different date
Mhm.
because of
It's a good call.
the situation, so maybe that's,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
maybe that's in September.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah.
I would like to include that person.
The
Great point.
objective is to get the person involved as soon as possible
Right.
so that they have a learning start.
Good point. And what's helpful is we have all of our board meetings recorded and available, so if someone wanted to
Fall
get a
asleep.
sense for energizing and
Very exciting, Jim.
decisions that are made. Yeah, they can watch. So Chuck, thank you for, I appreciate that. And so we can look at moving that retreat date because we don't want to, if there's someone, so clearly there's gonna be somebody. And so we want to make that decision and it was going to be on that day. So that's the time, we're using that time so we can
And
find out.
I mean, if I were a new incoming board member and you all just had a retreat
Yeah.
and I wasn't
Sure.
involved, I would feel
Yeah.
like that was a mistake.
Yeah, okay, so,
And one other thought on that is that who comes to the retreat is whoever you say. And the person may not be formally inducted as yet, but it's clear that's who it's going to be. You can invite them.
okay,
That's a good point.
there you go. Yeah, so we'll look at a different date for the retreat. Yeah, later in August. Okay,
That works.
so other than that,
Looks good.
looks
Yeah, the
good.
rest of it's
Do we need
nice.
to approve this or anything? or-
No, that was just a
Okay.
discussion.
Okay,
Yep,
All right. We've got discussed the middle school gate fees.
yeah, so I just wanted to, I think we had talked a little bit about this earlier.
I like. this.
So there'll be a decision in August. I would like to see us
Me too.
charge. It's what our middle school, the schools that we compete against, they're doing that. So we'd like to introduce the admission prices that are being used in the league. So it's $3 for adult, seniors 65 or over, $3 for students without ASB, $2 with ASB. We can use GoFan for that. And so it's, there's, for those families that choose to use GoFan, that's pretty convenient.
and
So-
students that aren't ASB would be students from a different school.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do they
And-
charge us more?
What's that?
Do they charge our students more? to go
Yeah, it's
to
the same.
The way.
Yeah,
they-
yes, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So we're doing what I would be proposing is what other teams are
Districts are
doing, other
doing,
schools are
yeah.
doing.
Are you looking for action?
We're not looking for action on this. I just wanted to let you know that that's what we are interested in doing now. Our facilities make it a little bit challenging.
Yes.
For example, football, just because of how it's set up. So that can be a little challenging. We haven't really discussed how we're going to manage that. The other sports, there aren't any really challenges like volleyball. Well, cross country might be a little
Inside
bit,
sports or
cross country probably is a little bit challenging as well. So
do
there
they
are a couple
charge
sports.
cross country
Yeah.
meet in other
Yeah,
districts?
so we've got to decide, I've got to determine that. I don't know that. And so Jake will help me
Yeah,
in answering those questions. And so it might just be that that's not an option for cross country, for football, but I think football probably we can figure something out.
I know Mr. Cook had some ideas, because him and I talked about it, I think, last football season. So,
Yeah, and I know that
There's
both
options, yeah.
principals are on board. I know the league certainly would like us to do that.
And then the funds go back to the programs. So
Yes.
like if you pay to go into a basketball program.
Well, I don't know,
back to
I
the
don't like to
basketball
commit to that. But they will go into to the school budget and be available for for athletics.
activities.
Yeah, for activities, athletics and activities.
And we do have a process for those families where it'd be a hardship, where they
Yes,
can get
50,
exemptions.
60, yes.
And then, would it require fencing?
Well, possibly. Yeah, that's
I
what
think
we
that's
got to work out
Yeah.
is how we're gonna,
Or
or we
how
communicate where we want individuals to, enter.
Right.
It gets a little challenging at JMS with the CRG, when students are leaving and then the game's about to start.
Right.
And so there's a lot of activity.
there's
in
not a lot of
in
parking.
that south, that south parking lot,
Pretty,
or the small parking lot, but also the driveway.
pretty good, raspberry or blackberry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Couple sides.
Yeah, maybe that's,
Don't
yeah,
need fencing there.
maybe that's the strategy.
Yeah, but then you gotta pay to keep it
So yeah,
under
just,
control. It has to be more than
this is not for
census.
action.
Okay.
We will share the fees with you in August,
Okay.
but this is one that I'm gonna
I'm
propose.
happy to see this.
Okay.
This is gonna be helpful for those.
Great.
All right, proposals for action.
Yeah, so we had no citizen comments.
You had some citizen comment.
That's for.
For general.
Yeah.
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 All right, next up, we've got resolution 2024, 25, 12, cancellation of outstanding warrants.
Yes, so you have the information
Yep.
in your packet regarding this. And this is one that requires action.
So explain to me what this is exactly.
So this is a payment that was not cashed.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and so a number of things can happen after that. And so anyway, yes.
So these just are checks that were not
Yes,
cashed.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that.
Do we know, I mean, a couple of these are substantial
Right.
tests.
Yeah.
Do the check receivees, whatever they're called, do they know that they didn't?
Right, so that's,
Cash.
yeah, so that's one, and I was just discussing that with Shalice
Yeah.
in the process that we follow. And so, yeah, and I don't have a specific
That's right.
example of, for a couple of these,
Yeah, there's,
I mean, some of these are
Quite
4
well.
years old.
Years old, yeah,
Yeah,
2021, and that's a large amount.
right.
I'm
Can
in
you
favor.
yeah, right. Don't ask questions.
I don't know
We're
that.
gonna go ahead and just have it.
Good idea.
I move adoption of resolution 2024-25-12.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Going with that one. All right, next up, make sure I'm on the right one again. Okay, recommendation to approve a selection of design services.
Yes, so as you see, technology department is recommending the school district enter into a contract with NIS.
Yep.
Looking at the security system design for work at JMS and CRG, so what Les was just describing.
Yep.
Unless this doesn't include, it does also include district office,
It does include.
maintenance, and transportation. Yes, the last three buildings that we haven't done security upgrades, and then JMS and CRG is one of the situations we have is that system, when it's updated, then staff will only need like one
Right.
badge.
That would be
Right
amazing.
now, it would be two would be necessary. Any questions about that?
So is this is not the additional capacity?
This is, us asking you to approve a company to design the bid packages for us.
Okay, in case we decide to pursue.
So it is a precursor to the contract, which we would, and actually, I think as part of the resolution, it talks about that we're asking the board to approve the selection of this vendor and then a contract with the vendor to design the replacement of the security system here at maintenance, transportation, and then also to redo the work at JMS CRG. And so they'll do the blueprints, like the schematic drawings for those 3 sites. And then there'll be a vendor that we select. The vendor selection, I anticipate, would be in August. Unless we do a special meeting between now and then, that would be when we would come back. But it'll take us like at least 6 or 7 weeks to get the bid package put together and then to run the procurement process. So there's like a 3 or 4 week window for vendors to read through all of it, come do a walkthrough, and then submit a proposal.
So this is kind of like greasing the skids and then there's time to kind of make a
Yes.
Yeah,
decision.
so that we can start the next wave of the projects in the fall.
We don't have to do a special meeting for it.
Yeah.
All right, any more questions on that? Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Right. Okay, so the next one is the capital facilities plan. You have a copy in front of you. And I believe that Corey shared this with you.
Yeah.
On Monday.
Yep.
And so just as a reminder, our first reading was the capital facilities plan with a number of revisions. And then after having a conversation with the council, I determined that the timeline, as far as the counties are concerned and the city, was too short. And so the revisions that I made in this one that you have includes updating our enrollment projections. It includes the previous or our current plan as the address of the property that we are interested in purchasing. So we do have someone who is looking for property for the district. And so if we were to find property, the current plan would not allow us to move forward with that. So I don't foresee that happening in the in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But I wanted to update the capital facilities plan with the idea being, and talking with our council, that these can be updated every year. So this is not resetting the 6-year plan, but it is updating some of the language. One of the things that was requested, and would we consider adding some like 20-year outlook information. So we've done that. So looking at what the city is saying as far as their plan, their 20-year plan, I have added some information that speaks to what they've researched and what they believe our population will be, and then the impact that will be on our.
Yeah, so those were good additions. I really
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
appreciate that information from the city, because that is not something that we needed to go out and spend money on. That's something that they've been working on. So it's a really nice partnership that we have. So,
Yeah.
so we have that, we have the enrollment. And so I just wondered if we could go through this, spend a little bit of time and just see if you had any questions. So it also has a table of contents, which I added. So hopefully the PDF that you had, you could just go to the section you were interested in. So the introduction, there wasn't a whole lot that was updated. There certainly wasn't anything updated in the introduction from the one that you had for the first reading. Go ahead, Jay.
You're asking us to approve this essentially a 1-year
Yes,
update,
that's right.
because I really think we should spend this coming year
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
fleshing out
Thank you. Yes,
a more permanent, more
Yeah.
robust
Yep,
plan.
absolutely. And the concern was the timing of
Yeah,
it
we're
and
out of time.
feeling rushed. And I also,
We're out of compliance now, I think, right?
and we,
It runs out in 2020.
2027. 2027, yeah, so we do have some time, but I also want to include more people
Yes. talk about
for
that.
us to have more conversation,
Yeah.
but also to include the task force that could help us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real
Kind of like
good
the
idea.
strategic plan.
Very much like a strategic plan,
Right.
and really that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
Is we have individuals who want to help us with this decision. And not only we think about 6-year, but in our conversation we've had, like, what's the 20-year projection look like based on information that we have? Again, it's several years out, but we're looking at purchasing a piece of property for that kind of planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that to your point, this is really for this year, and then for us to spend time next year meeting with a team, an advisory team that can help us with the planning.
I think a capital plan that doesn't dovetail with the strategic plan isn't a very good plan.
Right.
Agree.
So,
Yeah, okay, so the first section, introduction, again, were some additions that you had an opportunity to see those. And it really is, like on page 5, accordingly, district facility planning is focused on those 3 things. So I just kind of changed some of the language with those 3. When we go to section 2, district educational programs and standard of service, that's similar information that's in our current plan. Just updated a little bit, some of the language. When we get into 3, capital facilities inventory, there is something that I added a utilization rate to, if you look at table 1, elementary school inventory, for example.
Yeah.
I added that utilization rate, and that comes from looking at our current enrollment divided by capacity.
Okay.
So that shows you, right, and this is particular elementary. I also want to add another, so for a future addition would be like the acreage of where these properties are. So the properties where the schools are, or any of our facilities are, or any property that we have that maybe doesn't have a building that potentially could have a building.
Well, and we need to make sure that's usable acreage too, because I think about Cape, we've got acreage back behind there, but you couldn't do anything with it because it's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So.
Kind of like what we talked about, the teaching stations, what's really
Yep.
usable teaching
Yep.
station.
And we did, I think some of the things that came up in some of our discussions. So if you see above table 1, there is some information that was added that kind of defines these spaces, square footage required per student at different grade bands. There's still work to be done with looking at a building, for example, let's say Hathaway, and these spaces that are teaching stations.
Mhm.
And one of the things we did was we had gymnasium and maybe the commons, those spaces as teaching spaces. We've taken those out, so it's consistent. And I think there needs to be more work with looking at each building and determining these teaching spaces, because you may have a space, for example, Canyon Creek. Up at Canyon Creek, we have a classroom and then a science lab.
Yeah.
And so that's counting as 2 teaching spaces. Now that science lab really isn't a good space for learning through every day, because just the way it sets up with labs. It's a great science lab.
part of that, I mean, the way I look at it as somebody who taught labs, that lab is essentially dedicated to that classroom.
Yes.
And without the classroom, no need for the lab. Without the lab,
Right.
doesn't have to be a
It's
science.
a good read. That's a really good way to look at it. It's an
But a
amazing
science-
setup.
Science classroom needs are different than
Yes.
English
Right.
classroom
Yeah.
needs.
I don't know that this teaching station definition,
Yeah.
right? There's an acknowledgement of that. So back to the utilization rate, you see what those rates are. And so I think that's an important data point as we're looking at, our projected enrollment and what our enrollment is doing, which is on one of the next tables is enrollment.
So a little discussion on that. I think anyone who looks at this elementary school space would conclude we are underutilizing our space. And if you include the portables, we're really underutilizing the space. And it's been brought up just kind of in casual conversations, but I think it should be brought up in public. The situation that I see, which is what I see in my hometown, where 3 of the schools I went to have been closed and sold, turned into senior living, turned into other things in the communities. But that's why I think getting the acreage of each facility, and I think looking at these elementary numbers, including the portables, it's hard to justify asking for more money from the taxpayers for anything without a better plan. And that, this is planning documents, not really a plan on what the district intends to do yet. I would hope that's something we could achieve next year.
Right.
But it's, we could close one entire elementary school and with the portables still be underutilizing our space. And just putting that out, that that could be in the works. Sooner people think about it and talk about it, in my opinion, the better.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I see when I look at the elementary
Right,
school
and
utilization.
you give an example of where you're originally from, and we've seen different districts in the state, so certainly the west
Right.
side, having similar conversations.
I saw it with Naval Air Stations where I grew up.
Yeah.
You know, half of my friends' parents live in Ann's Choice. They used to be the NASA Naval Air Station where I grew up. So I think times change, things change, needs change, and the board and the district needs to be cognizant and on top of those changes and
Right.
be prepared. So.
And the task force you mentioned, like that's something that they'll tackle and really
That's what I was
focus on.
thinking.
Yes,
as part of
because,
it.
yeah, so a big part of this capital facilities plan is the projected enrollment.
Yep.
And so I think that having a task force of individuals that want to participate, that are interested in seeing
Mhm.
and be a part of planning, as well as strategically inviting individuals. Again, similar to the strategic plan, we have someone representing the city, we have someone representing the port. I think those are partnerships that we want to continue to have communication with.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
huge
so
benefit.
them understanding where we're coming from and what
Mhm.
our data points to as we work on our strategic plan and what are we prioritizing. So I think all of that is a part of this, what this team could do. And when we look at our enrollment and we see what's happening in Southwest Washington, we see what's happening in the state, we see what's happening in the country, but to us, what's going on with our enrollment and making some, making some decisions, continuing to work with our community on those that families that choice out, what are those reasons they're choicing out? We're adding WLA 912 next year. Hopefully we'll see some of those families that are choicing out for online learning may come back, may see and want to be a part of the Washougal's WLA program. So definitely, Jane, I think that's what, so looking at our enrollment, and there'll be conversations about enrollment, not only just the projections, but what influence do we have on what's happening with enrollment?
Well, related, I mean, recovering families that opt out and then recovering the Washougal homes that have been co-opted out by other government agencies. And I'm not sure how we do that, but
Right.
The 250 new homes in Washougal that are all headed to Camas schools with a pretty significant piece of tax money going to the neighboring city rather than our city.
And so that's why having someone with the city
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, like
can help us understand
those
those lines. Yeah. Okay, so if we have middle school inventory, high school inventory. Now, so I'm looking at table 3, high school inventory on page 10. It does identify Excelsior.
Mhm.
And so you'll see enrollment, it's 0. Now we know we're going to have students working in Excelsior. We're going to have Cascadia Tech Academy. We're going to have 2 programs, forestry and teaching. So there will be students in there, plus our adult transition program is there. Plus we have advanced culinary classes are there. But that isn't a standalone school. So it's really a part of the high school. So the student capacity and the enrollment for the high school, those students will be accessing Excelsior. It doesn't include any students that come from Stevenson, Carson, so other school districts, but those aren't our students. So that's why that is 0 the way it is.
But I think that's an opportunity of, seeing these data allows us all to think about how could we more effectively use the space that our taxpayers built.
Yep.
And I think the same could have applied to Canyon Creek or, any of the buildings that are underutilized. There might be additional uses that would attract students back from Camas, that would attract students down from Stevenson, that we could use as that we could use more effectively than just having it sit in.
Yep. And then you see table 4 identifies our portables. Table 5 is our facility inventory. So none of that's been updated, but Jim, that's where we could have acreage there. So we have some data for that. And then we get into our enrollment, existing enrollment, projected enrollment. We did not hire a demographer. So this is information that we have from OSPI, that Shalice using a method that she's, used, that similar to Chris used in projecting our enrollment. And you just see, for example, table 6A, 2026, 2,419 students. And then, we just see declining enrollment. Now, we have from the city, we have information that, that we should see our enrollment change and start increasing as the development, new properties are coming in. And so I believe that to be true. We think
Well,
it's
back
there's
to
a
my
number of,
question.
yeah, go
The
ahead.
city is planning on growing, but I know the neighborhood near me our city is growing a student population for chemist schools. And so being in sync with our city planners and knowing that, okay, yeah, they're planning on having a town of 25,000, but only 16,000 will actually be part of our district. Knowing that now would be, or having an opportunity to convince them that they really should rethink supporting our Washougal schools with Washougal development, and just getting that embedded in city council planning, I think is valuable.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions about enrollment? Okay. Then capital facilities needs. So that was it in the enrollment section.
Mhm.
But there was some input that doesn't make sense to be there. So I added a new section. So that's the new section. So that's why it looks different than our current plan. It's not in enrollment, it's in its own section. And so those, the portables was something that's in our current plan. The future school site is in our current plan, as well as any kind of increase in square footage for our facilities, for warehouse, and then technology infrastructure. So all of this has been vetted by our council. And so this is what would be going to the counties for improvement.
Right.
Okay, and then we get into some additional information regarding the finances, similar to what Shalice was sharing, and then the 20-year outlook, which is a new addition. And we'll just keep updating that as we get information. Okay.
We're still here, I promise.
Yes.
We're just really quiet all the
Yeah,
time.
I know it's a lot of information. I like the direction that we're going as far as
Right.
updating this,
improvement,
knowing
yeah.
that we're going to
Yeah.
make additional revisions.
Yes.
And probably, we could possibly reset the 6-year timeline.
I'm just glad that we're gonna do something like we did with the strategic plan committee, because I think putting, like you said, multiple people on this and getting others'
Yeah.
input, I think it's gonna make a huge difference.
Yeah. So, other than our conversations and the executive team, right? Yeah, well, there's other stakeholders that I'm sure would want to contribute to the development of this plan.
Well, I think the stakeholders that represent the bond payers for any capital projects.
Yeah.
Having them involved in the planning makes it easier perhaps to pass a bond in the future if needed.
What would be our target completion date for that planning?
So the county,
No, I mean, for
For the-
not this
for-
one, but for what we're
Yeah,
talking
so
about
similar-
getting a
similar.
coalition
Yeah,
together,
so June is when the county would be, if we were thinking that we wanted it updated for the next 6 years, then yeah, it would be a similar timeline.
So starting fall.
Yes.
and wrapping up end of next year.
You
before
think about the
December.
strategic plan, we had 4 meetings, we started in January. And so it could be a similar,
I think that's my
Yeah.
question is like, we want to be thoughtful about it, and also I don't want it to be a 1.5-year process
No.
before we get to like,
right.
start it in August,
plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
plan by the end of the year.
And so I'll be thinking about the things that we like, bond refunding is something that we might be interested in, levy. Certainly levy, is something we're gonna be working on. So there are a number of things we're gonna be working on, and this is gonna be one of those as well.
When, again, I apologize for forgetting, when does our current tech and capital levy expire?
So 25, 26.
Yeah, so the board will need to decide in the fall
get
whether
it
they're
on
going
the
to
ballot.
approach voters with one either in November, February,
Okay.
or August next.
Of next year. Okay.
Or it'll lapse, on January 1st of 2027.
And wouldn't that be a big hit to your technology
Mhm.
operation? Yeah, so.
Yeah, and
It would be.
even
Yeah,
both the
let it lapse, yeah.
which, from that pie chart that Shirley showed, that's
Sure.
about 20%
Right.
between the two.
So in light of that, I think if we can move
Mhm.
sooner rather than start in January, I think we're gonna we will help by building support
Mhm.
before a ballot
Yep.
goes out to
Yeah.
voters asking for more money.
Yeah. Well, and we've worked with our labor partners. There's an interest from WAE to have individuals who want to be a part of an enrollment
Yeah.
discussion.
That's great.
So they can,
Nice.
so again, I think that that's going to be part of this
Mhm.
work and this
Yeah.
team. So maybe, I threw out January. It sounds like possibly October. Maybe we could get started. Maybe we could do some, put something together and start inviting individuals in August, September.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
I think we need to.
I would recommend perhaps we, based on the abundant turnout at our last roundtable, perhaps we replace the roundtables with some focused
Yes.
fiscal.
So instead of an open listening tour, an event with a specific purpose.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
and let people know that, okay, here's your chance to have input on the future.
Mhm.
That was a disappointment.
Yeah.
But I think having
You didn't
something
miss anything.
specific to talk about.
Get a ball game.
kind of
Yeah.
make it-
Yes, it could, yeah. So I am
I like that
asking
line.
for action.
Yes,
Mhm.
okay, so no more questions on the capital? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have comments from board of directors. Chuck, you can go. Your last one,
You're speechless?
you're speechless.
Well, yeah. I was thinking earlier. Going over challenges that I signed my first contract as a teacher in 1965, 60 years ago, to teach music to kids, K through 8, for $4,500 a year. And that's a nice respect for teaching music. And I've been teaching one way or another ever since. Taught kindergartners, I've taught graduate school. That's my very favorite teaching has been and is fifth grade kids want to learn how to grade school. That's my passion. Anyway, I'm commenting about me because I'm reminiscing.
Well, I know that those kids love you too. I have heard so many wonderful comments, my child included. They learned a lot from you. And other people. All right, Jim,
I have a number of things.
just
I
want
was
to be here
gone
all
for a
night, don't
month.
you?
No, but yeah. First off, congratulations to the graduates and their families. Always a good time of the year. 1 week left and they're on with their lives. Another crop. I was gone. Maybe this came up at the last meeting. Congratulations to the 3 elementary schools that got recognized for as outstanding improved schools. I know it's something for at least the last 5 years, the district has emphasized closing those opportunity gaps, and it's really rewarding to see the hard work that staff, administrators, everyone's done working. So that's awesome. Congratulations and thanks to Tracy. I remember the day I walked out of my office and never came back. And congratulations, Tracy, and thank you very much. Thank you, Chuck. You've been a great colleague and mentor, and bringing your 65 years, I didn't realize, of experience in public education to the table has been really valuable, hard to, impossible to replace, really. Congratulations to Mr. Bauer for being nominated for that Presidential Science Teacher Award, one among the top science teachers in the country. That's awesome. Thank you to Superintendent Hanson for persevering through a year of interim and still maintaining an interest in taking on the permanent position. We all appreciate that. Appreciate you, Aaron. Student reps are gone, but I really appreciate them too, and thank them for the time that they put in. I think that's a great addition to our board meetings. More thanks, Reed Northwest, Anna Paul, all the volunteer reading buddies. That is really helping our students achieve. And I know that just from my own family, a grandchild that struggles with reading is struggling in school. And getting those reading skills in elementary school makes everything easier. And then thanks to the ECA and their volunteers and the high school mentorship program, and a special shout out to Barb Seaman. She, from my understanding, she kind of helped facilitate that whole thing. And it's the second year and it's bigger and better than the first year. And that's something else I think our students and families and teachers can take advantage of, is a lot of volunteers in the community that have experiences that can perhaps just reach that one high school kid that can't get it for whatever reason. And then, of course, thanks to all the teachers, all the classified staff, all our administrators, and everything they do to keep making our schools better. Last weekend was the Parkersville Day event, and Alice Gang did a great job of getting student artists and recognized for their art. Pretty cool. It was the Oregon Trail was the theme. Parkersville Day is kind of a historical theme, and that's some neat stuff. And the kids were very proud, the ones that won. And then Dave Duarte and the pep band gave a rousing concert that was fun. Even kind of flashback to the high school pep band days, which is not 65 years, but pretty close. And then again, I said, I think our future will be best served by building on strengths that we have. And I just say that again, it's a strategy that I saw used at University of California in Santa Barbara, and it's a strategy that works. We might want to be great in something, but if we don't have strength, it's hard to be great. It's more effective to build on the strength that we already have for whatever random reasons. And then final thanks to Paul Hooper, who had the willingness to put his name in to run for the school board, and I appreciate that. And it'll be at least 1 year of Hooper Cooper board. Anyway, I haven't met him. I'm going to reach out and have coffee with him, but I appreciate the fact that people, at least one person in the community, is willing to commit their time and effort to our K-12 education and our children.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, me. Following that, I don't have notes. Gonna keep it short and sweet. No, a big shout out again to all the volunteers at the school. I got to participate in one of the birdhouse builds, and it was awesome to see how many people, like we had twice as many volunteers as students, which I think is awesome. They all got the help that they needed, and just watching them build their little birdhouses was pretty fun. Also just right next door, as we often hear, baseball and softball season are winding up, and we did have from our local community, the ECLL team over here that just took the tournament win over in Evergreen. So that was very fun to watch, and watch all those kiddos and their parents brave the heat and wrap it up. So that's all I got.
I don't really have much. I think I'm excited to see, the seniors graduate. Like that dissonance between the constant change with like the never ending future planning. So some things are going to continue, and yet we have this burgeoning class that's going to go out and do hopefully great things. So it's awesome.
Well, Jim took pretty much everything on my list, so I'll just keep it short today. Right now, I know all of the schools are doing field day and all of these amazing events, and those events cannot happen without our boosters, and our boosters are so amazing. We have field day tomorrow, but it's the money that they raise for our schools, but, you know, kids asking their grandparents and parents and everybody for this money, and I just appreciate that so much because we really could not put on some of the events that we do without our booster club. So thank you, and thank you for volunteering. Super excited for graduation. Tracy's gonna be amazing, taking over Erin's spot up there, and I'm excited for it. And you will be here. All right, Erin, here's your.
Yep, thank you. Okay, and you have a presentation in front of you. So the first one, so here we have Chuck working his magic, finding instruments to give to students. So we have these instruments that I think were donated. And then this is up at Canyon Creek. And so there's Chuck, and these pictures were sent by Brooke. And there's a bottom one there was Brooke and Jake and a student. And so Tracy had sent out an email saying, if anyone is interested, this is a send off to Mr. Carpenter, who has contributed to this district in so many ways, but this music love and the love that you've shared with elementary students, middle school students, our music teachers who just adore you. And I think you're still going to be around and helping. Yes, I hope so. So with some of these quotes, right? So Chuck has been the smiling face, welcoming arms, and heart of a true leader for Washougal School District. Every parent, educator, and student he interacted with was better because of his leadership. Thank you for your commitment to our students and community, Chuck. Brooke Henley, so Principal Henley. Mr. Carpenter has been an amazing advocate for the arts, and I, for one, appreciate all he has done for the arts. Blessing to you, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you very much, Dr. Hodap. And then Chuck, we cannot thank you enough for all the support and volunteer time you've spent at CRG, inspiring and supporting our young musicians. We are honored for your service and kindness in our community. You are a passionate educator who has advocated for our schools and students and has truly made a positive difference. You will be missed very much, Hannah. So Hannah doesn't know you're going to keep volunteering. So yeah, you just have been such an advocate for the arts, but really for all of our staff and our students. And because of your experience, you get it. You understand. You have this incredible depth of knowledge and context as an educator. And so back in 1965, right? So I wasn't born yet. I really get to say that. But so I was a couple years after that. But so this dedication and and I know that you've enjoyed it, you've loved it. So that's why you've stayed with it for so long. So thank you so much. We have a little card, a little bit of cake. So afterwards, when we're done, when I finally stop talking, we'll be able to celebrate with some cake. And hope you're up for that. This is the one that's the flavor, right? This is the flavor of the month. So I mentioned this, I think, the last time, Brent Mansell. I just want to say a great choice for Teacher of the Year. There's Brent. Now, the middle picture is Brent supporting a student whose birdhouse build, Jane, didn't go particularly well. And we were wrapping up, we were putting everything away, and she was frustrated, just a little upset. And so he worked with her and built the birdhouse. And when you have someone who knows exactly what they're doing, it's about a 10-minute build. But it took us 80 minutes, I think. The first time we did it. And thank you for helping. It was such a great event. But anyways, this is about the birdhouse. This is about Mr. Mansell. And just with this example, this project, he did so much work. We had middle school students working with fourth graders. We had high school students working with fourth graders. It was just, and one of our volunteers said to me at Hathaway, said, that high school student was just amazing, was so patient and just phenomenal. And I looked down and here's our high school student sitting on the floor, working with a fourth grader. And this adult who's a volunteer recognized what our student was doing, our high school student was doing. I didn't even think that was going to be an outcome of this, was the impact of our community members seeing our students in action. Because this is a phenomenal district with amazing community members and students. So, yeah, love that. So here's the birdhouse bill, just some pictures. So fun project. So thank you for those that helped. I'm not sure they're necessarily going to do this next year. We'll do something hopefully similar with the toolbox, the birdhouse, but it was fun. Yeah. And unlike the toolbox build, I did take one shot on the thumb. Man, it hurt. How in the world? My thumb was clear over here. How'd you do that? She didn't mean it. So we're celebrating, so track and field, so spring sports are over. This was our track team that competed at state. So always appreciate seeing our student athletes excel, all our students excel. Thank you to our voters. Track and field is brought to you by Levy Funds. So thank you for that. Strategic plan. So we finished our 4th meeting last week. We have a great team. We have a mission. We have a vision. We have goals. We have metrics. We have tasks. We have values we identified. We're working on a profile of a graduate. Les shared that information with those on the team. Thank you, Chuck, for being part of the team. So really appreciate you being there. It was very helpful. Thank you so much. So the contributions of everyone were just phenomenal. So we are planning to possibly, I think we surveyed it, we may have a meeting in August. We want to present to the board this plan. And so Sadie, I know that you will be there as you have been a part of this. And so probably we're going to have a meeting in August to just finalize based on the feedback.
I love how
But
many people have showed, like how many community members,
Yeah.
and so many people have got
Yeah.
so invested in it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And having 2 board members participate has been, really important. And so making sure you're aware when we present to you, I've been giving you updates, but I feel really good at where we are right now. It's not a final product, but our goal would be to have it so we can start 25, 26 with this in place.
So kind of present it and approve it.
Yes.
August or September.
Yes, that's the idea. Yep,
Okay,
exactly. Yep. So graduation week, Panther Rising is an event that happened at the high school. This was Friday. So there's students getting ready. There are no students around them because that was before all the students joined these seniors. So Kathy Scoba is the one who facilitated it, or was the one with the mic and asking each one of the students, which was something we hadn't been doing with every student. So as she emceed this, she asked every student, what are your plans? So not only do we have the sign, the yard sign that is they say up front, this is what I'm doing, but we ask them. So it's so important. Part of our strategic planning was like this, what we've heard is like, we want them to have a plan for that next step. What are you doing next? So it was a great event. Always appreciate that. I think it's really important that we continue to do that. So it was awesome. What was interesting during that particular time, there was a lot of noise on the roof, a lot of pounding. So we could have paused the roof work, but no one thought of that. And then Jim, what you just talked about, I saw you there. I happened to be there. A pep band in 30 minutes, they did 10 songs.
Yeah, I was
And David Duarte said they actually have 50 songs that they could do. They did 10. It was great. YMCA. So it's a really fun event. What you can't tell is it's about 80 degrees, maybe 85 degrees. It was hot. They were in black, but it was only 30 minutes and then they got out of there. So yeah, it's they were the only ones that performed. And so I think others are invited, but they've shown up 4 years in a row. So really appreciate David Duarte and our pep band. Okay, so that is it. Other than graduation, we talked a little bit about. So I think you know the details on graduation. The event starts at 5. My recommendation is to get there, at least a half an hour before. Your robes will be in the main office. And so everything that you need is there. Then once you get your robe on, then you'll walk down to the small gym, or excuse me, the big gym, which is where the students are setting up, and you can mingle with them. It's kind of a very positive energy. It's very exciting. And then you'll get in line and you'll walk down with the principal and Tracy. So Tracy, who is going to be up on stage, and she has a few words that she's going to share with those in attendance. And so I'm glad you can make it. If you want more specific details, I can give you more details regarding what that looks like. Parking would be in the main entrance parking. So come up 39, go in like you're going to the main entrance. That's my recommendation to park there because there won't be much parking in the student parking lot.
Sitting in where?
So the main, you know, where the main entrance is, there's that parking like towards Excelsior. There's
Tennis courts.
yeah, there's by the tennis courts, you take a left and go down and there's that kind of turnaround circle there. Yeah, right there, there'll be the spots for you. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, so thanks to Tracy. So Tracy, this is Tracy's last board meeting. She's going to be speaking at graduation, which she shared with us she's going to speak, and I love what she's going to be sharing. She has been a phenomenal team member, and so we want to thank you, Tracy, for your contributions. She and I had a chance earlier this afternoon to kind of just talk about how this year is ending and how much I've appreciated her and some of the things that she has really delivered on that I appreciate that I didn't know until I was in this position, what I would know. And I think it was that important, but I recognize it is loyalty to a decision, loyalty to a team, and she has been phenomenal. And I've learned a lot from Tracy. I've learned a lot from Tracy in our conversations. I've learned a lot just listening to conversations she's having because our offices are so close, and how she treats people, how she recognizes and shares gratitude for team members, for staff, for students. Her student focus is always present. Why are we here, and why we do what we do? So appreciate you very much, Tracy. And I know that, and we talked about other opportunities for Tracy to still be involved. She wants to continue to be a part of this team. And she's been a part of lots of teams. And there was an event that happened not that long ago where she had a lot of her colleagues, former colleagues, family. And it was just a testament to her 40 years, not 60, 40 years. But what a commitment as an educator. And it's so challenging, but it's so rewarding. So thank you.
I'm hearing you have 25 years to serve.
Right.
All right,
I love it. All
there we
right.
go.
Yeah, so we've got citizen comment.
Yes, we do.
We've got Betty and Karen. Come on up, ladies. I'm just being a little for that. That I couldn't get up here and stand by myself. Good work. Good.
We wanted to take a moment to express our sincere appreciation to Tracy, who's retiring. Working under your guidance has been an incredibly valuable experience. Your leadership, support, and encouragement have made a real difference in both our professional growth and our personal confidence. You lead with integrity, patience, and a genuine commitment to helping others succeed. Whether it's through your thoughtful feedback, your open door policy, or the way you handle challenges with calm and clarity, you've set an example we truly admire. Thank you for believing in us, for always having our back, and for creating an environment where learning and growth are not only possible, but encouraged every day. It's an honor to have been able to work with you, Tracy, and we are both very grateful.
We learned a lot. Yeah. That's a lot right there. All right, do we have any future agenda items? Board evaluation votes are available online. Is there any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that Becky and Amy are here, and they're here, not because of me, they're here to celebrate Chuck. And I want to make sure that they're acknowledged and for a long meeting, but I appreciate that you're here and the commitment, and we know how important Mr. Carpenter is to our district, past, present, and the future.
These are the miracle workers.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:42.